In a bustling Seattle cafe, where the aroma of roasted coffee mingled with the clatter of Sunday brunch, Claire Bennett sat tucked into her usual corner booth, stirring a long cold latte. Her spoon traced slow circles, a ritual that kept her grounded amid the chaos of her family's weekly gatherings. The sun streamed through the window, catching the polished wood tables, but all eyes were on her older sister, Vanessa Carter, with her designer sunglasses perched on her head and a gold bracelet glinting on her wrist. Vanessa commanded the room like a Broadway star. "Your last gig was such a yawn," she said, her voice cutting through the chatter, aimed squarely at Claire. "I mean, who's still jobless at 32? It's almost performance art." Her laugh was sharp, a solo act meant to draw blood. No one else joined in. But Vanessa didn't need an audience to revel in her own punchline. Claire didn't look up. She pressed her lips into a thin line, her hazel eyes fixed on the latte's fading foam. Her mother, Ellen, murmured, "Vanessa, that's enough." But it was a weak protest, swallowed by the clink of silverware. Her father, Tom, cleared his throat, muttering about the overpriced avocado toast. But Vanessa's smirk lingered like a challenge. To her, Claire's silence was proof of defeat, a blank canvas for her to paint with mockery. But what Vanessa didn't know, what none of them knew, was that Claire was no drifter. At 32, she was the co-founder of Nexus Analytics, a tech juggernaut valued at $90 million. Its data systems powering everything from Wall Street to Pentagon war rooms. And Vanessa, in a twist of cosmic irony, had just applied to work for her. The Bennett family brunch was a ritual of contrasts. Vanessa, 35, was the golden child, her life a highlight reel of TV appearances, charity galas, and a now-defunct lifestyle brand that had briefly made her Seattle's darling. Claire, by contrast, was the ghost in the family portrait, quiet, unassuming, her life a cipher. Her faded hoodie and messy bun didn't scream, tech mogul, and she liked it that way. While Vanessa chased headlines, Claire built empires in the shadows. 6 years ago, in a cramped Capitol Hill apartment, she and her college friend Nate Larson had written the first lines of code for Nexus's predictive analytics platform. Nate was the face, charming, media savvy, shaking hands at Davos. Claire was the brain, crafting algorithms that could forecast market crashes or diagnose diseases before symptoms appeared. She owned 49% of the company, her name buried in legal documents, her face absent from Forbes. That was her choice. Fame was a cage, she wanted freedom. Today, though, the air felt charged. Vanessa leaned back, sipping her mimosa, oblivious to the bomb she was about to drop. "I'm done with small-time firms," she announced, her voice loud enough to turn heads at nearby tables. "I applied to this hot new company, Nexus Analytics. They're the real deal, cutting-edge tech, big money. If they're smart, they'll snap me up to fix their budgets. If they pass, their loss." She flashed a grin, expecting applause. Claire's heart skipped, but her face stayed neutral. She glanced up, just for a second, then back to her coffee, hiding the spark in her eyes. Vanessa had no idea that Claire, the sister she'd mocked for years, would decide her fate at Nexus. The thought wasn't revenge, it was something sharper. A quiet thrill of justice waiting to unfold. The cafe hummed with life, waiters weaving through tables, kids giggling over pancakes, but for Claire, time slowed. She could still hear Vanessa's barbs from years past, each one a pinprick that had toughened her skin. At 12, during her birthday party at their lakeside home, Vanessa had burst in with a cheerleading trophy, stealing the spotlight as their mother gushed. Claire had stood by her cake, candles forgotten, and slipped away to tinker with a second-hand PC her dad had scavenged from work. While Vanessa danced for crowds, Claire dismantled code like a puzzle, finding joy in its logic. "We've got a rock star and a bookworm," her father used to joke. Vanessa was the rock star, Claire, the bookworm, was fine with that. She didn't need applause, she needed problems to solve. But Vanessa's words today cut deeper because they weren't just personal, they were blind. Claire wasn't just successful, she was seismic. Nexus Analytics wasn't some startup, it was a revolution. Its systems had flagged fraud in global banks, optimized hospital supply chains during pandemics, and even guided disaster relief by predicting flood patterns. Claire had written the code that made it tick. Her nights spent debugging while Nate pitched to venture capitalists. By year 3, they'd secured a $50 million contract with a Fortune 500 firm. By year 5, Nexus was a household name in tech circles. Though Claire's name wasn't, she'd insisted on staying off the website, out of press releases. Let Nate shine, she'd told him. I'd rather work than pose. Now, as Vanessa bragged about her Nexus application, Claire's mind raced. She remembered the moment she'd seen the HR alert last night. Vanessa Carter. Budget analyst application. She'd stared at the screen. Her apartment lit only by the glow of Lake Union outside. Vanessa's resume was solid, years at a mid-tier accounting firm. A knack for numbers. Though her failed lifestyle brand screamed overconfidence, Claire could have rejected it with a click. Instead, she'd forwarded it to the hiring team, adding a single note. Review thoroughly. She didn't want to sabotage Vanessa. She wanted to see what she'd do in a world where Claire held the keys. The brunch dragged on. Vanessa pivoted to a story about her latest charity gala, her voice a magnet for attention. Claire's parents nodded along, their pride in their eldest daughter a reflex. Claire didn't resent them for it anymore. She'd stopped craving their validation years ago, when she realized her work could change lives without a single headline. But Vanessa's ignorance was another matter. The sister who'd called her a nobody was about to walk into Nexus's sleek headquarters, expecting to charm her way in, unaware that Claire's signature was on every major decision, from budgets to breakthroughs. As the waiter cleared plates, Claire's phone buzzed in her pocket. A discreet glance revealed an email from Nate. Vanessa's app is moving to interviews. You sure about this? She typed back. Let it play out. No special treatment. She slipped the phone away, her face calm but her pulse quickening. Vanessa was a wild card, bold, persuasive, but prone to cutting corners. If she excelled, she'd earn her place. If she faltered, the truth would hit harder than any argument Claire could make. The chapter ends with a flashback to a pivotal moment in Claire's journey. At 27, in a dimly lit coffee shop, she and Nate had sketched Nexus's vision on a napkin, a system to predict human behavior with uncanny accuracy. They'd worked through nights, fueled by cheap espresso and ambition. When their first client, a regional bank, signed on, Claire had felt a rush no spotlight could match. That was her stage, the hum of servers, the elegance of code that worked. Now, as Vanessa unknowingly stepped toward that stage, Claire felt the same rush. Not for revenge, but for the moment when the curtain would lift, and the sister who'd dismissed her would see the architect behind the empire. The Seattle skyline shimmered under a soft drizzle, its glass towers reflecting the muted glow of a late spring evening. Inside Claire Bennett's 18th-floor apartment, the hum of her laptop was the only sound, a familiar companion as she reviewed Nexus Analytics' latest quarterly report. But tonight, her focus wavered. A notification blinked on her screen. Vanessa Carter, budget analyst, approved for hire. Claire leaned back, her eyes drifting to the rain-streaked window overlooking Lake Union. Her sister, Vanessa, the woman who'd spent years dismissing her as a nobody, was now an employee at the company Claire had co-founded. The irony was delicious, but Claire's heart wasn't racing for revenge. It was something deeper, a curiosity about whether Vanessa could change, or if her ego would blind her to the truth staring her in the face. Weeks passed, and Vanessa settled into Nexus's sleek headquarters, a labyrinth of glass walls and humming servers. She strode through the open-plan office with her signature confidence, her heels clicking like a metronome, her tailored blazers turning heads. To her colleagues, she was a fresh face with a knack for numbers and a disarming smile. To Claire, watching from behind her remote dashboard, Vanessa was a puzzle. Would she shine, or would her showmanship unravel? Claire kept her distance, logging in after hours to approve budgets or tweak algorithms. Her presence at Nexus as invisible as ever. Only Nate Larson, her co-founder, knew the full scope of her role, and her connection to Vanessa. She's good, Nate said during a late-night video call. his voice tinged with amusement. Cocky, but competent. You sure you want her in the dark? Claire nodded, her face unreadable. For now, let's see who she is when no one's clapping. Vanessa's first clue came by accident. During a routine budget review, she stumbled across a digital signature, Claire Bennett. N.S. The initials were unfamiliar, but the name hit like a static shock. She brushed it off, surely it was a coincidence. Some other Claire, but the signature appeared again. On a contract for a $10 million AI project. Then on a legal memo tied to Nexus's founding. Vanessa's curiosity turned to obsession. Late one evening, alone in the accounting department, she pulled up the company's master files. Her clearance just high enough to access the truth. There it was, in stark black and white, Nexus Analytics founding documents. Claire Bennett, co-founder, 49% ownership. Role, Chief Technical Architect. Vanessa's breath caught. Her sister, the quiet, hoodie-wearing Claire, who she'd mocked as a glorified typist, was the brains behind Nexus. The woman signing her paychecks. The realization didn't hit Vanessa like a thunderbolt, it was a slow burn. She sat frozen, the blue glow of her monitor casting shadows across her face. Doubt came first. Maybe it was a mistake. A legal placeholder. Then came shame, sharp and unfamiliar, as she replayed years of taunts. No real job. Hiding in the shadows. A nobody. Finally, something new stirred, respect. Grudging at first. For the sister she'd never truly seen. Vanessa didn't confront Claire. She didn't storm into HR or call their parents. Instead, she went quiet, her usual bravado replaced by a focus that surprised her colleagues. She started listening in meetings, her crossed arms giving way to a notepad filled with precise questions. She dug into Nexus's financial models, not to impress, but to understand the systems Claire had built. Claire noticed the shift. From her remote perch, she saw Vanessa's work improve, budgets tighter, proposals sharper. One afternoon, Vanessa submitted a bold idea, a sponsorship program for junior employees. With a focus on women in tech. The proposal's title, Code the Future, caught Claire's eye, but it was the footnote that stopped her cold, inspired by the quiet innovation of Claire Bennett. Claire read it twice, her coffee forgotten. Vanessa wasn't just changing, she was acknowledging her. In her own way, Claire forwarded the proposal to HR with a single word, approved. The turning point came at Nexus's 5th anniversary gala, held in a glittering venue by Lake Union. Chandeliers cast ripples of light across the crowd. A who's who of tech titans and investors. Claire, who'd always shunned the spotlight, had agreed to step into it tonight. She stood backstage, her black gown sleek but understated, her nerves buzzing. Nate nudged her, ready to stop being a ghost? She forced a smile. Not really, but it's time. The MC's voice boomed. Please welcome the co-founders of Nexus Analytics. Nate Larson and Claire Bennett. Applause erupted as Claire stepped onto the stage. Her heart pounding. Every eye was on her. But she sought only one pair. Vanessa stood at the back, a champagne flute untouched in her hand. Her face was a mask of shock, her eyes wide as Claire took the mic. Nate spoke first, weaving a charismatic tale of Nexus's rise. Then it was Claire's turn. Hi, everyone, she began, her voice steady despite the tremor in her chest. I'm Claire Bennett, and for most of you, this is probably the first time you've seen me. A ripple of laughter eased her nerves. I've always preferred the background. But tonight, I'm here to say thank you. Nexus isn't just tech, it's trust. Built line by line, error by error. She glanced at Vanessa, whose expression had softened, a mix of awe and regret. The applause was deafening, but for Claire, the real sound was the silence in Vanessa's eyes. The gala faded into a blur of handshakes and congratulations. But Vanessa was gone by the time Claire reached the buffet. Claire felt a pang, not of anger, but of something unresolved. 2 days later, at a family brunch in a cozy Green Lake diner, the air felt different. The usual cast was there, Ellen and Tom, Uncle Ray, Aunt Judy, but Vanessa arrived late. Her usual flash replaced by a simple sweater and jeans. As they ate, Ray chuckled, turning to Claire, still tinkering with those computers. Kid? When you gonna get a real job? Before Claire could answer, Vanessa's voice cut through, clear and firm. Uncle Ray, Claire's the smartest person I know. She built Nexus Analytics from nothing. And I wouldn't be where I am without her. The table fell silent. Ellen's hand found Claire's, squeezing gently. Judy nodded, impressed. Vanessa didn't flinch, her gaze steady. I used to think I had it all figured out. She continued, but Claire taught me something bigger, humility. Her quiet isn't weakness, it's strength. Claire's throat tightened. She didn't speak, but her eyes met Vanessa's, and in that moment, years of hurt dissolved into something new, understanding. After brunch, as the family dispersed, Vanessa lingered. You didn't have to give me a chance, she said softly, her voice raw. I don't deserve it. Claire smiled, genuine and warm. I didn't do it for you to owe me. I did it because you're capable. We start fresh today. They walked out into the Seattle sun, side by side. No words needed. The wounds weren't forgotten, but they no longer bled. Claire and Vanessa would never be the picture-perfect sisters of Hallmark movies. But they were real, two women who'd stumbled, learned, and chosen to see each other. Claire began speaking at Nexus events, her voice growing bolder. Vanessa traded her need for applause for a quieter drive, mentoring interns and refining budgets with precision. The story's heart lies in its truth. Forgiveness doesn't always need a tearful apology. Sometimes, it's just a look, a nod, a choice to move forward. For Claire, the greatest victory wasn't Vanessa's praise, it was knowing her silence had built something undeniable. And that, in the end, her sister had seen it,